We're going to talk about the mountain of the Lord's house today. The Bible is full of spiritual interpretation, spiritual ideas, spiritual concepts, and trying to explain these to us. Now, in thinking about this, there's an interesting prophecy recorded in Isaiah regarding a mountain, and the Lord's, what they call the Lord's house, being set up in a high place. Now that has some spiritual meaning for us today in metaphysics, because we realize that yes, something is happening in our world today, and that minds and hearts are changing and beginning to see things on a spiritual level. Now, you know, I just love to go to the mountains out in Denver. I love that's one of my favorite spots. I've been there, and early in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit earlier, as the sun begins to come up into the mountain area, and it's dead silent. You have to get used to that, because we're used to all the stuff, the roar of motors, the passing of traffic. Even if it's in far off place, someplace around our house, we feel that, we hear that. It becomes something, well, we don't even recognize that we hear it anymore. And as you sit there in the mountain area of Denver, up around the Stanley Hotel, you can sit on benches and watch the sun as it comes up. And it's just dead silence. Except every once in a while in the little town below, you'll hear a motor start. And someone's headed off for work, maybe down into Denver. I never could figure what they did for a living up there, but anyhow, it doesn't make any difference. It's a wonderful place. Man opened a candle shop and made $1 million in his first year and decided to sell. Me too. Well, one time I was sitting on a bench there, and I was listening to the silence, and I wasn't moving at all, and a dog, kind of an old hound dog, came walking by, and I don't know where it came from, and he didn't see me, but I saw him. And then he turned around and he saw me, and he jumped way up into the air. Okay, I had startled him. And he went woof at me, and he ran down the mountain. Well, he just wasn't used to seeing anybody around up there, you know, especially looking at him. Now the Bible then is full of these symbolic meanings such as water, referring to the moving thought, earth, original thinking, world, limited thinking, the word cross, meaning a bridge between two states of thought, Father, the action of God creating, Mother, the loving care of God. And we should understand this as we deal with these words, that they have some meaning. Now when we read these prophecies, we should clearly understand the situation in which these prophecies were given, and at what time. What was going on? Who did they refer to, and what did they refer to in regard to physical things or symbolic meanings? Now, Isaiah talks about the mountain solid, or what we would say solid mountain. What would be the opposite? Unsolid mountain? Well, we see those all the time where the rocks are sliding down, and even up there in Denver and around the mountain areas in Utah and in there, they will have rock slides. And you'll be going along, and all of a sudden the whole highway is full of rocks, and you can't get any farther, and the police are there, and I don't know where you're supposed to go. You know, you don't just take a detour off somewhere, a side of the mountain, or what. But anyhow, they clear it off, and then you can go ahead. When the Jewish writers of that time talked about something solid, they referred to something that was permanent, something that would stay, something that would be there forever. And so when they were trying to explain this, you see, mountains to them were a mystical place. They were in kind of a flat land, desert land. But there were mountains in the middle of all that. And those mountains, especially to the people of Israel, and they called it the Mountain of Zion, or Mount Zion, it was a mystical place where they could get a feeling of higher kind of thinking. And the prophets, if you remember, went up into those high mountains, and one of them disappeared, was never seen again. It would be something that would replace another object, would be that flowing thing. It's in a state of flux, was not their idea of the mountain of God. So when we talk about a mountain, we're talking about a state of thinking. That's what we're talking about. That will replace the old thought for a brand new thought. Now, you know that those things are taking place today. There's all kinds of new ideas. People are always getting new ideas. They're thinking of new ideas. New inventions come every day, speedily. You know, Mary Baker Eddy talked about there's many wonderful, and this is back in the 1800s and early 1900s, she talked about wonderful new inventions. Well, I wonder if she'd been around today to see the things that we have today. We're replacing old thoughts. You see, nothing in life stays old. Nothing stays old. Just doesn't. It keeps changing. There are new things. There are new ideas. Television has changed to HD, you know, so that you can get a really clear view of the absolutely ridiculous program, and so you can see it clearly, you know, and on it goes with all inventions. We have seen this type of thing happening throughout our lives. Things change. Do you dress like you dressed in the 50s? Well, I've seen some people that do, but no, you change with the times. Your hairstyle changes, and you know, my hair one time was parted in the middle, and how else did I do it? I don't know. I remember grease. I remember that. I remember there was a lot of grease, and I'd have to be reminded by my parents of please wash your hair. It's all grease. But all the boys had all this grease in their hair. Some still do. Animal power, for instance, to gasoline engines. Limited energy to atomic power. Investigation of Earth to space travel. And these are all going to continue through our lives because there's all these wonderful new ideas coming up. Now notice that our scriptural selection, if you look on your responsive reading, says that the mountain of God towers over all the other mountains. God's ideas supersede old ideas and plant in the mind of men new ideas that move us forward. We wonder where all these ideas come from, these new concepts. Well, they really come from divine mind, from this infinite mind that always holds us. Now, I want you to notice a prophecy that came out in Science and Health. And the reason I quote Science and Health and Mary Baker Eddy because she was one of the first prophets to come and explain certain things. And so we like to take a look. We take a look at science of mind. We take a look at unity. We take a look at a lot of things that are going on and have gone on. Now this was written over 100 years ago. She says this material world is even now becoming the arena for conflicting forces. Now she's talking about the war between Mexico and the United States. I do believe that that's what she's talking about in those days. On one side there will be discord and dismay. We're seeing this in our world today. People take a look at the newspaper, they look out at it, and they just shake their heads. Oh me. So on one side there's this discord and dismay. On the other side there will be science, that is how things operate, how God operates, and peace. Once you know how God operates, and you are able to trust God because you realize God's presence and power, then you find peace. She goes on to say, the breaking up of material beliefs may seem to be famine and pestilence, want and woe, sin, sickness, and death, which assume new phases until their nothingness appears. These disturbances will continue until the end of error or false belief, when all discord will be swallowed up in spiritual truth. You see, we're changing our thinking. And even in her days, well, in fact, it's been over 100 years now, maybe about 120 years, that when she wrote this, that even at that time there was these changes taking place that were convulsing the whole world. And of course it hasn't gotten any better because we have to change.